This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jeremiah Jensen, Alex Keary. Thanks for hanging out with us. This portion of the show brought to you by the folks at GoPave Utah. Don't wait for bad weather to schedule professional snow services with GoPave Utah this year. Your complete parking lot safety experts, GoPaveUtah.com. Joining us on the program right now, former BYU wideout Austin Collie on the program here with us. Austin, thanks for being with us, man. How's everything this week?
It's going great. I'm excited, man.
Everybody's excited about it. I want to go back in time to when you were preparing for these games. What was preparation like for you? I know everybody tells us it's the same, everybody, and I get that, but is it also different? How is it different than other games when you're preparing for this game?
Yeah, if anybody's telling you, giving me a boilerplate answer that it's a different week, man, that's a lie, right? Like, everyone knows what week it is. If you're a player, you know what week it is. Your mindset's a little bit different. It's bragging rights, right, for the rest of the year, and especially when you haven't played in such a long time, or this game hasn't been played in such a long time. And there's so much backstory, right, in terms of the coaching staff, players, et cetera. Like, yeah, it's not a different game. When I was preparing for this game, it's definitely, had a little bit more of a chip on my shoulder that week.
When you see this team, this BYU team in 2024, and obviously as an NFL guy and a former Cougar yourself, you watch things differently. When you see this wideout group and you see what Jake Retzlaff has kind of become this year, what have you been impressed with how much they've been able to improve upon week on week with this team?
Yeah, I think a large part of the credit goes to A-Rod, right, and being able to utilize the weapons that he has and understanding the strengths that he has at each position, specifically a wide receiver. BYU's never been notorious for being a deep ball threat. There are guys that we do have on the roster that can get vertical and get by guys. Darius is one of those guys. Chase can get by some guys. Parker Kingston's got some gas. But for the most part, BYU wide receivers, and it's no different with this group, I don't think. I mean, they're technicians, right? Like, Fessy does a great job of coaching these kids up and making sure they're great route runners and being able to get it done within the numbers, right? And so the one thing that impresses me about this group is they make the play when it's needed. They've got a little bit more swagger to them, week in and week out. And especially guys like Chase, man. I mean, I don't think there's a more reliable receiver right now in the country. I think, the majority of his balls are going for first downs. His catch rate's around 70-80% on contested catches. And that says something about a receiver. It says something about his dependability and how big and important he is to the offensive production.
You played with two of the best quarterbacks to ever do it at BYU, and John Beck and Max Hall. And I'm sure you're watching Jake Retzlaff and watching him develop and get better this year. What are some of the qualities that you see in Jake that you remember stood out about guys like John Beck and Max Hall, those qualities that are required for a great quarterback? Obviously, you played with Peyton Manning as well. What qualities does Jake have that's really helped him turn the corner this year?
Yeah, I think just the overall kind of ownership of the offense and of the team, right? Like, I do think that there's a certain personality and there's a certain characteristic that each quarterback has of having kind of this sense of being the leader of the entire team and owning the team, right? And understanding that, especially on the offensive side of the ball, the way that he goes, the offense goes. I think the first two games, just given the fact that, the decision of who the starter was going to be kind of leaked into that first week of the season or in preparation, kind of maybe didn't allow him to have that sense of ownership, right? Because he was still maybe debating on whether he was going to be the guy or not. And that tryout kind of bled into the first 2 weeks. But, after the SMU game, when he kind of struggled a little bit, I was super impressed with the way that he came back that Wyoming game. And he's got a little moxie to him, right? And that moxie continues to increase the more and more he continues to get comfortable with the wide receivers in this offense. And I think A-Rod's done a phenomenal job of, again, understanding the skills that he has on offense or with his offensive players to get that. Hey, Jake plays better when he's able to kind of move around, escape the pocket, extend plays with his feet, and create plays with his feet, right? I think that allows him to kind of pull him out of that more analytical type mindset and let him play to his more natural ability.
I mean, you've done the thing where you've played this game a lot, and so maybe things don't really surprise you, but how ridiculous of a turnaround has it been in your mind? Like watching BYU in these games and now at 8-0 versus ending the season 5 losses in a row, and then to start the season off with basically the same personnel to 8-0. What does that even like? How does that even track? It doesn't seem like it seems so far of an outlier. But when you see it happen, how do you think that how like the nuts and bolts of it? How does that happen for a team?
Well, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, I think if you didn't watch like the all 22 film last year, like, and you weren't really taking a look. I mean, I've been working with Chase Roberts for quite some time now, and he and I would watch film probably every week last year, and I got to see what was happening. I mean, you know, there were little things that they needed to fine tune that they were just missing on that, you know, in game type scenarios, they get magnified and they end up costing you games. But, you know, you could see that they're right there. I mean, given the fact that the defense was there's the first year under Jay Hill last year, like that has a huge part of it. Going from year 1 to year 2 in a system is huge. You know, you look at all the influx of players that came in, the new faces that we had from the transfer portal, especially at wide receiver. Most of the guys that had been there were too young to even, you know, I mean, Chase was a sophomore, right? And still maybe felt like he was underclassman at the time and, you know, was looking to maybe some, you know, seniority type leadership out of Keaton. Keaton was a guy that, you know, came in from, you know, Pittsburgh. And, you know, to have him, to look to him as a leader and him only have been there for 6 months and not really having that team cohesion, like those little types of things, man, and all those like moving parts, you know, ends up being magnified on the field, especially on the scoreboard. But, you know, if you watch the whole film, you could see that, hey, listen, as soon as they start to get a little bit of confidence and they start gelling and they spend more time together, this team is going to be pretty talented. And, you know, from spring, I was saying that this is definitely an 8-win team. I did not anticipate them going 8-0, though. Anybody that tells you, hey, it does not surprise me this BYU team went 8-0, they're lying to you, right? Like, I mean,
what about when the team tells us that? What about when the team tells us that? Because they're telling us that, and I've said the same thing. I'm like, there's no way even the team could figure that out.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard to have those types of expectations, especially coming off the record that you came off, even knowing what you know, even knowing what I was telling you previously. I mean, to go 8-0, especially in this conference, you know, I hear people talk about this conference as if, you know, it's a terrible conference. There's not a lot of competition, and I say the contrary, right? I don't think there's a single team in this conference that's an A team, that's an A+ team. I think there's a lot of parity across the board, but there are a lot of B+, B- teams, and on any given week, as long as the team puts it together, they could string along a few victories, right? And there's a lot of talent there. So I don't know, to say that if I'm a BYU player, I'm going to tell you that, right? Like we anticipated that. I'm sure they anticipated having a lot more success than what the critics were giving them at the very beginning of the year, what Vegas was giving them at the very beginning of the year. But I don't know, man, to go 8-0 in this conference, I mean, that's a feat, especially coming off of what were they last year? 5-7.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. So maybe 6-2 is what they were thinking, but I could be wrong.
Austin, you accomplished so much during your playing career. You had some great moments. You played in a Super Bowl, man. You played with Peyton Manning. You did all these great things, and you were awesome at BYU. Where does 4th and 18 stand in all that? Is that the most special moment you had, or how, and does this week bring up a lot of those memories back, and how good does that feel?
Oh, anytime you beat Utah as a BYU football player, man, it's definitely a memory that will always be in the forefront of your mind, especially when this week rolls around, and to be able to beat that team in that fashion at home. You know, and you know, I'm going to always remember it because that was the only time I beat them, right? I played them 2 other times and just happened to be the best Utah teams to ever play, right?
Yeah.
It just happened to be 2 of the best teams, 2 of the top 2 teams in the country at that point in time, right? In the 2004 team when they went to the Fiesta Bowl, and then the 2008 team when they went to the Sugar Bowl and beat Alabama, right? So those are two great teams. Obviously, the time that I was able to have an impact and beat them, I'm going to always remember those and forget about the losses, right? But it's a big week, man. It's a great game. I can't tell you how happy I am that it's back. This is what college football is all about. The animosity towards the fan bases, towards each other, just the geographical kind of essence of it all, just being so close and everything being broke up by just a point of a mountain, man, is just adds to it. This is what college football is all about.
Where does the rivalry stand now that they're back, not just in the same conference together, but in a power conference together? How much more special does that make it?
Oh, I mean, it provides so much juice because now it matters, right? Before Utah kind of had this attitude like, all right, when we do play and we're playing little brother, and they were unhappy they were playing BYU because, no one who's trying to make a national title run wants to play a team that's less, or that they think is less than, have them disrupt their entire season. So, there really wasn't much on the line before except bragging rights. But this, man, this is, especially now that there's a pathway, a direct pathway to the college football playoffs. Like every year, this game's going to matter more and more, especially as both teams continue to get better and better. And I picture these two teams being at the top three, teams in the Big 12 for a long, long time. So, every week, every year that we have this game, it's going to mean a lot.
If someone like Darius Lassiter, who's never played in this game, comes up to you and says, "Hey, Austin, what's it like playing against Utah? Why does this mean so much? Can you help me understand this?" What would you tell him?
Oh, I tell him, come spend a week in my insurance office right now with my partners, right? And then you'll quickly find out what it means, right? Both my partners, massive Utah fans. We've been going back and forth for the last 2 months on who's going to win this game. No, but there might have been some. There might be some bets, right?
Okay.
They might be getting them. They might be getting a Magic Happen shirt on their desk tomorrow to wear this weekend.
Are you selling those? You should be selling those.
Hold on a minute. If I go to a football game and I'm presented with a Magic Happens T-shirt or a Cougar tail, the Magic Happens T-shirt is number one.
I'm glad to hear it. Send me your address. I'll send you one.
There you go. Let's go.
There you go. Magic just happened.
I know. I
love it. That's great, Austin.
Austin Collie, former BYU wideout, and it's always fun, not just during rivalry week, but to be able to chat with Austin Collie every time is always fun for us. So, Austin, have fun, man. Are you going to go up to Rice Eccles, or do you just go, you know what, so much better on the couch?
No, I'm actually doing the pre and post game at BYU Sports Nation.
That's right.
I'll be down there doing a little bit of broadcast and then watching the game in between.
Oof. Set up the BYU TV tent right outside Rice Eccles.
You guys may need some added security for this.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, how hard is that? That shouldn't be that hard, right?
No.
Normally they would be like, "Sure, absolutely, we got a place for you. Come on down, come on up, let's go
in the north end zone."
right behind the dumpster.
Oh my goodness! All right, well, that'll be a ton of fun, and we're looking forward to it. Austin Collie, thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Austin.
All right, guys. Thanks.
There you go.
All-time great.